All right, good afternoon, NAVFAC Southeast. Once again, Captain Jorge Cuadros, accompanied by RXO, Captain Tom Bastafka, and our business director, Mr. Jeff Killian, virtually, but live, in an attempt to do an all hands across the AOR and capture everyone. I believe everyone received the agenda that we're going to cover today. So I will probably not go point by point on the PowerPoint that you received, but you do have a general idea of the things that I'm going to talk about. So if I don't discuss them virtually, directly, you can reference the slides always to complement any information that was missed. So you know that no good all hands would be enough without some recognition. So we want to take the time to recognize some very, very important accomplishments and milestones in people's careers. So I'd like to start off by recognizing 4 individuals that reached the milestone of being over 40 years of civil service to our government and DOD. First, Mr. Thomas Smith, biologist at PWD Kings Bay with 40 years of service. Second, Christopher Healy, an engineering tech with PWD Jacksonville, 40 years of service. Michael Cassart, maintenance mechanic at PWD Pensacola with 40 years of service. And last but not least, Alan Mitchell, engineering tech, Roy Barksdale with 45 years of service. So once again, congratulations on such a huge accomplishment milestone, and my deepest felt thanks for your service to our country. Not on your agenda, not on the slides that you received, but I am pleased to announce the Employees and Supervisors of the Year. This is for 2021 fiscal year. So starting with the GS Tier 1 GS Employee of the Year, it goes to Ms. Vivian Young, PWD Jacksonville. For GS Tier 2 GS Employee of the Year, Mr. Ronald Jenkins, PWD Gulfport. For the GS Supervisor of the Year, Jeffrey Weigel, PWD Mid-South. For the Wage Grade Employee of the Year, Cody Wilson, PWD Pensacola. For the Wage Grade Leader of the Year, Mark Lucas, PWD Pensacola. And lastly, Wage Supervisor of the Year, Mr. Tommy Neely, PWD Gulfport. I believe Tommy is collecting rings because this is like the second consecutive year that he gets the Wage Supervisor of the Year. So congratulations to everyone. As you all know, I've talked to you throughout the year when I congratulated you as Employee of the Quarter. But, it is very stiff competition. And these decisions are not hard to make because we have absolutely phenomenal talent in our command. And so being recognized, whether it's Employee of the Quarter or Employee of the Year in this case, it's a phenomenal accomplishment. And I'm very proud of everyone, not only that are actually our winners, but everyone that was nominated throughout the year, because that speaks volumes to everything you're doing. We have an addition to the Federal Years of Service, and this was just handed to me, so I apologize, it was off tempo, but Mr. Ken Sessions, which we were discussing earlier, I don't think anyone has ever seen. 31 years of service, probably comparable here across the table. Mr. Sessions, 50 years of service, and he is at PWD Gulfport. So Ken, thanks for your service to our country. That's phenomenal. You're here. You must have joined the Navy when you were 10. Moving on, another phenomenal accomplishment from the standpoint of the nomination, the competition, and eventually the announcement of the winner, Ms. Amy Hoffer, 2021 Department of Defense Acquisition Individual Achievement Winner for Facilities Engineering. Department of Defense. I can't state that enough. That is just one amongst the most significant awards that any of our employees has received recently. Not only for the importance of the work that she's performed but also the level of recognition. So Amy, great job, and once again, congratulations to you. I'm happy to be recognizing all your hard work for the past few years. Okay, and finally, I'd like to announce our LDP and ALDP candidates that were endorsed by the command and then accepted as the cadre for calendar year 22 NAVFAC LDP Leadership Development Program and ALDP Aspiring Leader Development Program class of 22, as I mentioned before. First, the calendar year 22 NAVFAC Leadership Development Program, Level 1, Jeremy Adams, Senior Environmental Planner, EV Corps. Second, Ms. Tiffany Fake, Operations Production Controller, Ops Corps. Mr. Justin Grover, Energy Project Manager, PWD Jacksonville. Alan Kuczynski, from the Design and Construction Fire Protection Engineer here at the Corps. Ms. Valerie Strom, this is now at the Level 2, our Deputy Public Works Officer for PWD Key West. And Mr. Bill Brown, Facilities Management Director at PWD Corpus Christi. So congratulations to you all, LDP cadre of calendar year 22. And now for the Aspiring Leader Development Program, ALDP. We had great success. Again, I want to credit Jeff Killian for, kind of leading this program, both the LDP and ALDP, because we always seem to get, everything that we ask for. And so in this case, Norman Adams, pipe fitter from PWD Key West. Mary Braindle, environmental engineer at the Corps. Jagnita Combs, contract specialist, PWD Kings Bay. Charlotte Cope, environmental engineer, PWD Panama City. Natalia Evans, management analyst at the Corps. Wayne Fernandez, engineering tech at PWD Key West. Those are the Aspiring Leaders Development Program cadre of calendar year 22. And we have 3 on standby should positions become available. And again, this is great. We got Gregory Eggenberger, maintenance mechanic at PWD Pensacola. James Hume, FMS at PWD Key West. And Sean Nolan, engineering tech, PWD Pensacola. So again, well done. These are phenomenal programs. We have seen great leaders, people that are occupying, critical leadership positions within the command that came up through those programs, and because they applied themselves, they took the most out of them. They emerged as better leaders by virtue of participating in these programs. So very proud, very happy, and I look forward to seeing all of your names and more. In positions of leadership in the future. So we're going to take a break now from the recognition. Again, I could go on and on and on for hours recognizing the hard work, your accomplishments at the individual level and the team level. But obviously we don't have enough time for that. But I do know that I remain very proud, very watchful for all your accomplishments, and very proud of the work that you do every day. So thank you for that. So we're going to shift over to talk a little bit about winter holiday safety. So as is the case with some seasons, like the summertime, the winter and the holiday season presents a set of challenges. And add to that the fact that we've had kind of a weird 22 months, 24 months, depending on how you're counting. We're going to be engaged in different activities this year, maybe contrary to 2020, but certainly this season, contrary to the rest of the time. So some of us are going to embark on, long drives, maybe to areas that are a little bit colder than ours, maybe areas where there's snow that falls, and you're looking forward to that. So I just wanted to call to your attention, be very mindful. Don't take unnecessary risks. And, when it comes to winter and holiday-specific safety, I'm very interested in ensuring that, we're driving defensively. If you've driven out in the highways lately, there's a lot of people that are distracted, that may have not driven for a long time. And so I say it's really on us to ensure that, we're the ones being watchful because if we're not paying attention, maybe nobody is. So don't assume that another driver, has you in their mirrors. Don't assume that another driver is going to be driving straight all the time. Be watchful always if you're engaging in any long distance driving, really overall driving. Driving at night will present a set of challenges. I'm of the opinion, and I think I've called the XO at least once when I've told them, listen, I don't think I can continue driving tonight. I'm really tired. And so, I've done that. So, I say that because I want to lead by example, right? I'm one person that prefers not to take unnecessary risks. I know when we're young, we feel we're invincible, but that's never the case, right? So don't ever let tiredness, get in the way of, getting there safely. And obviously this couples with, especially if you're driving long distances, right? So there's different measures, different thresholds. All I ask is, please don't take any unnecessary risks. And be prepared during travel, like I said before. If you feel like you need to stop. If you feel like you need to overnight somewhere, do so. Because at the end of this holiday season, if you're going somewhere, I want you back in the office, at your workplace. Because, your presence, your contribution to the team is critical. Talk about candles. Maybe you use candles throughout the year. Maybe you only use them during the holiday season. So, be mindful. Anything that has to do with fire, unless we deal with fire every day, we need to, just take the extra step to be deliberate, careful, and again, not to over-repeat myself, but not take any unnecessary risks. Fireplaces and stockings. You probably have seen the videos. When you look at them in retrospect, they may seem funny, but I guarantee you, when somebody's fireplace or house catches fire, stovetop, what have you, it's no joke. So please be mindful of that. And then it's on videos, it's in movies, but it's on videos and movies probably because it happened at least once, right? So overloaded circuits. I've driven around, seen a lot of houses already decorated that look phenomenal. It brings the spirit of the holidays. But be very mindful when installing new electrical hardware around your home and ensure you don't overload your circuits. That is just a short list of the many, many hazards that we may encounter this holiday season. Above all, just ensure that I want you back in one piece when we come back from the holiday break. Now taking a break into more of the operations of the command, right? So I owe you. There's a video that kind of talks about the many accomplishments that were done at each and every one of our field offices. That's on YouTube and DVids and all the other outlets that hold the videos. But I wanted to highlight, some of the highlights from FY21. So our workload has remained pretty steady with a slight increase. So I think in the past we've talked about 2.0 billion being our volume of business. For FY21, we actually report a $2.1 billion dollar workload, and so that reflects an increase, slight and but significant at the same time. And again, that speaks to everything we do, right? So, and our projection is that would continue for several years, if not, on a sustainable basis, because the AOR that we serve in is that critical to the Navy, right? So I think that the funds will always flow to ensure that we're meeting the warfighter demands in our AOR. We had over 3,400 or around 3,400 awards performed by the team collectively, and with the contracting group last handling those awards totaling $1.7 billion. And so with that, we were number one among all the FECs in MILCON, what we call MACON, Special Projects Program of record. Our PW metrics were phenomenal. Our safety metrics were above all effects across the enterprise as it relates to DART rate, as it relates to safety training, as it relates to safety inspections. In all those aspects, we can always do better, but I'm happy to report that we were top among all the FECs. Our total force management metrics are also very impressive. And again, that is credit to not only the leadership that Jeff imparts across the command and through the supervisors, but each and every one of you, right? So I thank you for that. And last but not least, financial management performance. Boy, we have been stressed for, by my count, at least 3 fiscal years now, and we're starting the 4th. And when I say stressed, that implies a few things. One of them is change, right? The phasing of Navy Working Capital Fund, the adoption of a new financial system, compressed and constrained budgets, all that coupled with a very dynamic FEC, in supporting warfighter as our number one mission. My hat's off to our financial management team and all the PAs that support that, because without your support, we could not perform the mission. Our environmental business line awarded $46 million of projects, and that's above what they were actually asked to do. And that again speaks to the readiness of not only that group, but also the support that they received from those business lines and support lines supporting them. So they will take more funds across the year, especially towards the end of the year, to spend more than they were actually allocated at the beginning. So once again, great job, Mary and your team. Early execution of our SRM program at the PWDs. Again, that was very, very phenomenal, a great accomplishment. Know that in FY22, I'm going to be asking you to do the same, if not more. Because at the end of the day, what I always look for is a very, very steady burn of funds, not little burn, but a really steady obligation of funds on the right priorities across the fiscal year, so that we're not rushing to madness at the end of the fiscal year. So again, well done on the SRM execution of FY21, and we need to continue and improve that trend in FY22. Contingency response in FY21, as it was in FY20, but phenomenal response. So it was actually in 21, fiscal year 21, that we had very significant hurricanes, right? To include Sally, which actually happened during FY21. We had tornadoes, and we had a winter freeze. Who would have thought, right? And that, after we're sitting, after we're past the damage that they cause and the additional burden that placed on our lives personally, right? For those of you that were in those installations that suffered those weather events, after as you were dealing with your personal lives and the effect of those that phenomena over your personal lives, we were also responding and addressing the issues of our installations, right? And that damage that caused has totaled, by my count, really close to $800 million. That money, the money to make us whole again, to repair the facilities that were damaged, will come. In fact, it is slowly being identified and given to us. And as we do that, then I want to make sure that we all understand that as we get funds to fix our installations, that we do it right, and we do it better than before. So I could go on and on about that, but I think those of you that are affected by this, were affected by this, understand what I'm talking about, because I've talked to some of you personally about what my intent is with that. Along the way, also, again, across all the business lines and support lines, I'm only mentioning a few, and I apologize. I could go line by line and talk about each and every one of their accomplishments. But this is really a team sport, and it's really through the collaboration across the business lines and support lines and special assistance that we get done what we need to be doing. Okay, so now let's talk about FY22. Our start, the current state, and the outlook. So, as with any change, I can say FY22 is looking a little bit better than 21, and certainly a heck of a lot better than 20. I think we've got authority to do a little bit more than we forecasted, so that's good. That said, I don't want us to rest on our laurels and think that everything's good. because there are some SICs, special interest codes, that are still strained and have less than we anticipate funding available, while there are others that have what I see as additional funding, right? So a couple of different things need to happen, right? So for those areas where I have funding that's more than what we currently have on board, I need to hire. And for those areas where I still have a constrained SIC, I need to figure out to get to that control. And so some of the things that we're doing across the command is, living in the spirit of dynamic talent workforce shaping. And so I think that's going to be required as we deal with those strained and constrained SICs. And for that, some of you may have already seen, we're taking, some visit vera actions. We solicited interest, we got a couple surveys out, solicited interest, and then we make some actual offers. The result of that first iteration, didn't really yield everything that we needed to get below our control. So we have a second set of offers out, and I think we're still pending the results of that, right? So we might need to do more things like that in the future, again, to ensure that across all the SICs and fund sources that we are right-sized. And so, that will continue. But above that, I do want to say it's a little bit easier to breathe seeing the FY22 controls. Our biggest challenge will be, filling, about 150 vacancies, again, mostly on the design and construction arena. So, we're going to be thinking, very deliberately as to how we get there, because I realize we're in a competition for talent, and hiring the right people is going to be crucially important. But I know that I'm competing with private and many other entities that might be interested in engineers, architects, and everything that contributes to design and construction. So, but we have a lot of focus. I constantly ask questions as to how we're hiring. So if you know of engineers, architects, or people that we're looking for, please pass the word and point them to the right direction. Typically, USA Jobs is the point of entry. So at some point you may have heard that CNIC and NAVFAC were in the process of dialogue and establishing roles and responsibilities that were clearly defined, and with that the possible separation of functions. I'm going to tell you today again firsthand. You may have heard it already, but that effort has been put on pause, at least for some time. I don't know for how long. It could be tomorrow. Basically, CNO told the commanders for both CNIC and NAVFAC to stop their efforts because there were other efforts going on at the OpNav level that could be in conflict with those. So I'm not saying it's gone away. I am saying it's been put on pause, and at some point we may see it resurface. But that is the story behind any potential CNIC and NAVFAC roles and responsibility definitions and potential realignments of functions. Contrary to that, the NAVFAC internal functional realignment is still very much alive, right? So, and still under a refinement process. But I want to be upfront and tell you that this internal functional realignment may happen as early as October 1st of 2022. And some of the things that I can share with you in terms of what's within the context of a functional realignment may include things like we're looking at do PWOs come back to NAVFAC, to the FEC, or do they stay aligned to CNIC? I think that's one of those that's still out there for final decision, but know that the conversation is active in that regard. We see 3 pillars as kind of like the core of what NAVFAC does as a systems command. One of those pillars is called the Sustainment Pillar, and so this Sustainment Pillar is really in charge of taking care of our bases, what's already built. The second pillar is planning, design, and construction, and so obviously by definition this would be the pillar that's in charge of building stuff. And when I say stuff, I'm not obviously facilities. That's what I'm talking about. And the last pillar is one that also affects us, not in its entirety, but to some extent in the expeditionary pillar. So that's kind of like the essence of this functional realignment. Business lines, support lines, everything else that we know our effect to be stays the same, but we might just operate in a different way. And so what this allows us to do is, for example, have single points of service for PWDs aligned with the sustainment pillar. Single points of service and support to our FIADs and ROICs, namely in the design, in the planning, design, and construction pillar. But again, what we do and who we are, and as I said before, design, business lines, support lines remain largely the same. So it may be just a paradigm shift as to how is it that we operate, how is it that we support our units of action that is most important across any functional realignment. So I'm very cautious to get too much into org charts, because org charts, the first time that happens when somebody presents an org chart to anybody is like, go see where my name is on that org chart. I want to stay away from that, because to me what's most important is how do we support our units of action? How do we as a SysCom respond to the needs of our warfighters, the different ones that you all know we support? So if you have any questions about the functional realignment, please put them either on a chat or reach out to me directly via the CEO suggestion box or whatever means up the chain of command, because I don't want any questions about that to go unanswered. And now as we look beyond this fiscal year into FY23, I think, I talked about volume of business first, and that's one thing I want to, remain focused on, which is our volume of business is going to remain the same, if not increase over the years. However, I am starting to see signals that point to maybe additional, focus on being efficient. And so there's been talk about, reductions over at FIDIP starting in 23. And when I say that, I'm talking about reductions in FTEs. Maybe a paradigm shift or a relook at how we provide services. And so, yeah, when you're driven by funding, this may be driven by reduction in funding controls. But what I want to make sure we stay focused on is, within those controls, how do we support the warfighter, which always needs to be at the forefront for us. And so, I think by nature an optimist. I'm also, try to solve problems. And so I think before we get too focused on, funding levels and what that means to FTEs and obviously who might be affected is important. I want to make sure that, we also figure out, is there a way which we can provide same level of service for less cost, right? And that may require, just looking at things from a different perspective. Early work that we've done in FY22 has been very positive. FMB has accepted our transportation shortfall challenges as we're waiting to a final plus up in the TR fund source. UT, I hear, also is going to be made whole here in FY22. FMB has returned the authorization for 1,900 billets that we lost as a SysCom as we transitioned from the Navy Working Capital Fund to General Fund. When I mentioned those 1,900 billets, we're talking about the corporation as a whole. But I mentioned it before, right? There are some SICs, and in this particular case, FP is the one that is most affected. I see no relief, inside at the moment. So this is where I say, we might need to take a look at FP and see, is there a different perspective, a different outlook to it. We will continue to use, this means, our comms video, our pulse, to continue communicating with you. So I ask you, hey, there's a lot of effort that goes into producing those videos. There's a lot of effort that goes into producing that one-pager pulse. Please read them when you get them, because there's important info there. Some of you, I think most of you, eventually caught on to the little surprise we had at the end of one of the pulses, when we gave 59 minutes to the command. It was done on purpose because, and again, my desire, intent is always that you read those because, as I said before, there's a lot of effort that goes into them, and we do make it a point to keep you informed as best as we can, even if it's only through those means as we continue to navigate through the pandemic. Okay, I'm going to pause here because I was handed a question here. One question says, do we have any info on BRAC? So BRAC, for those that don't know, is base realignment and closure. And so I can talk to you hours about this. It's a great question, but BRAC is always a very, very tricky initiative or action to take. It's typically authorized by Congress, and it's kind of like this iterative process between DoD and Congress. Congress will ask DoD sometimes, do you want to do a BRAC? And DoD will say, well, do you want me to do a BRAC? So, typically there's no appetite for BRACs unless, DoD clearly says, hey, we do really need a BRAC. So the short answer is no. You factor into that, I mentioned Congress, you factor into that election years, right? So we're about to embark into yet another election year as the entire House of Representatives gets elected or reelected next year. And of course, about a third of the Senate does the same. So typically on an election year, there's even less appetite to embark on BRAC. So current NDAA that I've drafted, I've seen doesn't show any signs of a BRAC. And from everything I know, there's little appetite for that from within DoD. Okay. All right, so I'm going to leave this one for later. I'm going to talk about industry outreach. So across the command, this is really a command level effort, right? So my intent is always to be good partners with industry. And those partners exist right now just by virtue of the contractual relationships that we have with them. As a command, and at least from the piece that I control directly, which is here at the core, I make it a point to reach out to industry, to engage, to talk. Just yesterday, I was talking to the SAME Jacksonville chapter, and through those exchanges, I make it a point to do a couple of things. First, let them know what we're up to, right? It's really we really shouldn't be too secretive, especially if it's on open source. It's really on us to ensure that they understand what's coming, so that we get the best competition out there. We may also get great ideas out of outreach with industry, and it works both ways. I think this openness and within the legal limits, of course. But this openness really increases awareness of what our work is, and as I said before, increases competition, helps small business posture themselves to maybe partner with larger business and compete and get important awards for them. And as I said before, it provides a foundation for us to learn, right? And so if you've heard me talk before, certainly the ESG here said from me, but I'm very interested in continuing to learn and apply our lessons learned. Right? One thing is learning, one thing is knowledge, and the other one is the application of knowledge, right? So that's very important to me. And so when we engage with industry, listen, because we're the government, and yes, we are the representatives for the government when it comes to our business. But understand that some good ideas may come from industry, and so I want you to keep your ears open to ensure that we listen to those and at least consider them. This industry outreach we've continued throughout COVID. So we like this, we continued doing virtual events. We did virtual engagements. I'm constantly talking to at my level contractor representatives, not only where problems arise, but on a sustainable basis to keep their relationships strong. And so, I ask you to, do the same. And like I said, I spoke about this yesterday. I think there is no problem issue that cannot be solved if it's brought up at the right level, right? And a lot of times that requires us just to be open, right? And so I don't think anybody has a hidden agenda, and I think collectively we can solve any problems, prevent problems, just by reaching out to industry on a constant basis, and in the spirit of partnership. My expectation is that in the future, our FIAT directors, senior contracting supervisors, and our command senior DAWIA level 3 leaders will be directly engaged with our largest outreach events. So, and for now, at every one of your installations, continue to look out for those opportunities. Okay, the next topic, and I think we're reaching right about we're close to the end. It's total force. I've talked about this, a couple of times already. Heavy focus on total force. I think when we are faced with challenges, the one thing we can't lose focus of is our people. And so, again, I'm blessed to have the leaders that I have beside me. They helped me along the way. They listened to my intent, and they executed. So recently we formalized the Mentor Project program. And that was at your request, but also one of my interest items. And we saw it on DOC's comments, so it was really two ends meeting because I've always believed in that. I think my personal success, and I think many people can talk about this, is due to somebody caring at some point, right? Caring enough to give you feedback, maybe unsolicited, caring enough to point you to things you may have been blind to. So look into the Mentor Project program if that interests you. Mentor Project program is not to take the place of solid relationships between employees and supervisors. Employees need to be good followers, and leaders need to be good leaders, and good leadership is as important as good followership. So and then obviously there's many other mechanisms in place to give feedback to each and every one of us. Trust me when I say, I get feedback, if not every month, on a periodic basis. But I also get good mentorship and advice from people outside of this command. And even when I listen to others, I learn a lot from that. We are about to embark on the biannual roadshow. So a lot of work has gone into the planning for this. And I hope and expect to see great results out of this initiative. All FIC supervisors are required to attend. I know some of you from different field offices are going to travel to other field offices in an effort to have a more consolidated roadshow presentation. CC officers, CBs, CB non-commissioned officers, current LDP and current ALDP cadre are always welcome to attend those. I think, I look forward to your feedback, right? But everything I've seen is very positive. I'm very enthusiastic about the content, and if there's something that maybe didn't meet your expectations, by all means let the roadshow team know. But also let me know if there's any way I can help influence that. Everyone is to have an individual development plan in place by now, and so understand that SF 182s, which are the basically the training forms that we use, will not be processed if your training is not in your respective IDP. This has been in place for many years, so I'm actually surprised that it still happens, but I figure it's worth mentioning to ensure everyone understands. Return to work, we've been talking about this for over a year, right? So in anticipation of a return to work, we've been trying to craft what is the new normal. I think conditions will kind of define that naturally. But what we've done to prepare for that is, develop a revised instruction, right? And know that instruction we may actually refine once again as we learn more lessons from what it actually meant to return to work. When I say return to work, it doesn't mean that we're not working, right? I know everyone has a different workplace. And so I'm very mindful of stating, what is workplace and what is not, because wherever you are is your workplace. But understand that the instruction was set in place so that by now we would have already some milestones accomplished, right? So everyone in the command by mid-December should be coming to the office on their respective, when I say offices, I'm talking about the workplace, on their respective in-state telework or non-telework outcome, right? So, and we talked about this in previous all hands about, kind of the bins as I saw them. There's going to be people that are largely teleworkers, if not 100% teleworkers. There are people that are not going to be, largely non-teleworkers, may do occasional telework, and then those that fall in the middle. So again, understand that, we need to know what that outcome is for each and every one of you. Understand that these, telework agreements are a supervisor to employee agreements, right? And I say, if some conditions change in your life and your type of work, et cetera, those are always subject to change, right? And goes back to the employee supervisor relationship and the conversation that takes place as we encounter some of those changes. As I said before, we're going to review the instruction in January once again to ensure we're aligned. And lastly, on vaccinations, so we're at a low 80% for vaccinations of people that are not fully immunized. I'm not happy to say that is the lowest across the SysCom. And in addition to having the lowest immunization rate, we have had the highest COVID infection rate for the entire duration of the pandemic. And so to me, that it hurts at the core, right? Because I don't want any of my people to, number one, fall sick, number two, grow gravely ill. And I hope you know that we have had some deaths in our AOR. And each and every one of those, I say this as a human, as your commanding officer, it hurt me, especially if it was preventable. So I look out for this. I know at the end of the day it's a personal choice, but know that it's a personal choice that may have implications in the end. And I'm not going to elaborate on all those. I think there's been plenty of communication on that. Your most important resource and source for first-hand information will be your supervisor, because I don't want to circumvent the chain of command as I talk about that. But do know that there might be implications. And as I care for each and every one of you, the last thing I want is for somebody's employment to be threatened because of something that could have been easily solved. Okay, so I have a COVID question. Any word on when we can expect an answer regarding religious exceptions or medical exceptions? So right now, and that's why I shied a little bit away from the topic. There's no solid timeline, but as we know one, we will let you know. Are there any other COVID questions? No. Okay. All right. So what I just talked about was really accountability, and we had a very interesting conversation with the ESG a few weeks ago on accountability, right? So accountability may, as I mentioned, it may mean different things to different people. And so I want to make sure that you understand when I'm talking about accountability, I'm talking about both the positive and the negative, right? And more importantly, the positive, right? So I am accountable for a bunch of things, myriad things. And sometimes when I think about that responsibility and what I'm accountable for, I get a little bit of, the intimidation factor. But that is also the things that keep me, motivated and to come back to work with energy. So understand that accountability, overall is a very positive thing. But when we fail to meet the mark, accountability may take a different connotation, and that is one where we, enforce standards or applicable policies, regulations, or laws, right? So accountability by definition, as I said before, is the acceptance of responsibility for one's responsibilities, actions, etc. So I think we, I don't want to, go too deep into accountability, but I wanted to take the time to, explain to you, what I mean by accountability. You have heard me say, maybe in different forms, but I want to repeat it. So as it relates to what we're responsible for and accountable for, know that there's help, right? So when you can't solve something yourself, elevate it. And again, we've made it a point to communicate that to you in different forums. But I want you to hear from me once again. I don't expect everyone to solve every issue that they encounter, and know that when we can't, we elevate it. And again, putting myself as an example, there are a number of things that I ask Admiral Aguayo to help me with, because I've gotten to the point where I can't fix him within my influence. So there's nothing wrong with elevating something. I am challenging our leaders to deliberately and simultaneously focus on the other side of accountability, the one we never think about, which is the positive side, and the one that I mentioned earlier, recognition. So we started with recognition. We talked about milestones achieved by people by 40, 45, 50 years of federal service. We talked about some employees of the year, employees of the quarter. We talked about the Ldp, Aldp cadre. My best days in command are those when I present somebody a certificate, a medal, a coin. Of course, I know cash awards are important. Those are my best days in command, when we recognize your hard work. So, but I can only do that if you help me, supervisors, right? So please continue to recognize our employees. Please ensure that what they're accountable for is recognized, especially in the positive way. And then a couple other things. So first, those gotcha moments. So gotcha moments should be moments for learning. And I've talked about this in a couple of different ways today. But we must strive to learn. We must be a learning organization. We must never forget that the only way to do better in the future is by applying lessons learned, right? So the way we've always done it may lead to some success, but true success and long-lasting success really comes from this constant evolution and learning. So gotcha moments are very important. And as it refers to accountability, both in the good and bad, ownership, right? So that is the core of accountability, is owning when you succeed, and giving credit to those that supported you, and owning when we fail to meet the mark. Some errors are minor, and owning up to them goes a long way, at least in my book. So please pay attention to that. Good and bad, own it. Okay, and I think that's the end of what I had prepared to talk about. I know we have some other questions, and so I'll address these first. Please, keep them coming as I read these. So, new question: will travel vouchers be paid under CRA number 2? The answer is yes. So understand, these continuing resolutions have faced some challenges in the way cash has been flowing to us, but we are beginning to work on the first one. So those commitments that were made in October, and we're going to continue to make our way through November and obviously December. We're currently dealing with over 180 claims. So again, be patient with us as we comb through each and every one of those. The next question: what will likely happen next if Congress does not approve a budget by February 18th? It's hard to say. Maybe a little bit more of the same. But my commitment is to ensure that we get the funds that we're owed, even under CR. So I'll continue to support the command to the best of my abilities to ensure that we can do what we're in business to do, and that any CR issues, current or potential future ones, don't get in the way of that. It's hard to say. I wish I had a crystal ball and tell you, hey, February 18th, everything's going to be solved. Understand that the political environment right now is it's challenging, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? So dialogue is taking place, and that's something to celebrate. And as the two parties, iron out their differences and issues, we might see a bill by February 18th. But if we have to, navigate through another CR, then we'll deal with that as we go. How long is the FY22 funding? Oh, how is the FY22 funding looking? Do we need to worry about any loss of positions? So I can say right now, in the last year, you recall me talking, I was very careful navigating through FY21 because there were some uncertainties. Certainly we saw less controls than we had people, so we had make some adjustments along the way. The outlook for 22 is, as I said before, a little bit more positive. So if I look at the cash, the controls that we've received, we will have enough to pay for everyone that's on board right now. In light of DCBL's current continued hiring, how might Visit Vera affect DCBL billets or the continued hiring? Why hire if we're reducing or shifting billets? So regarding DCBL, it will not affect it. So, at risk of repeating myself, understand that, if you have different funding streams that I cannot cross or contaminate into each other or align funds across, there might be 6 that are more strained and under which I need to right size, and there might be others that for which I have a surplus for which I need to hire. That is just the nature of our business, right? And we are a business. Understand that, though we're a Navy command, we're also, to some extent set up as a business. And so that is why Visit Vera does not currently affect DCBO.
And Skipper, the series and professions are not the same. We need basically 150 engineers, architects, engineering technicians, and construction managers. So that's in the DCBL community. We may have engineering technicians in PW that possibly could do an ET job in DCBL. So that'd be an instance where we could move people over. But for the most part, it doesn't just map. So we have to do that dynamic talent workforce shaping.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. The next question is Visit Vera being offered NAVFAC-wide throughout Southeast or only in the core? So I don't know about the other FACs. Some might be embarked on similar initiatives. So what I know is what we did within the command, and that was across the entire command, and that was the Visit Vera that was sent out. What we sent out to the command was only the survey, and then the offers that went out was to number one, very funded challenged billets, and also those that fit, what I talked about earlier, constrained or strained 6. Next question, can you tell us what circumstances initiated the Visit Vera offering and what is being considered along the lines of organizational restructuring, delayering, or downsizing as pertaining to the last email? So I think Jeff explained it, well. We need to move billets to DCBL and deal with the FP, which is mostly under PW, but facilities planning is one of those that is clearly underfunded right now in FY22. You want to add anything to that?
No, I think we've covered it a couple times.
Okay. XO, you've been quiet.
Sure.
All right. Okay, so we talk about doing more with less. Funding, manning, what does that look like? How do we get there? So I don't think I've said that. With all due respect, so when I talk about paradigm shifting, I really talk about doing things differently, right? And so more with less is something that we as an enterprise are really trying to wean ourselves out of, right? So I think what is important to understand is, and I said this earlier, what is our core mission? How does NAVFAC as a SysCom support that? And first and foremost, are we adequately supporting our warfighter? And with that in mind, what else is out there? And do we need to do that, right? So resource constrained environment, it's not more with less. It's about we have this much to operate within. What are the priorities that fill that bucket? And where do we stop? And at what point do we say no? Okay, so I hope that actually answers it. So it's it's really less with less, if I was to put it in the terms that the question was asked. So we talk about, reshaping, realigning resources, innovating. But this is not a, unilateral command saying we're going to cut X number of billets. And oh, by the way, everybody, continue doing everything that we were doing before. So I hope that clears it. And I'm being very frank with words so that everybody, hears it directly from me. Do you, the CEO, have an open door policy? So the door's open right now. So I would say, generally speaking, yes, right? But I'll be frank. I'll not submit names, but there have been people that try to approach me with things that could have easily been solved at a much lower level, right? But if you bring something to me, trust me, I am gonna, get that issue and get it to resolution. And so, what happens sometimes if an issue has not been properly staffed, or at least been made aware of, up the chain of command, is I put him out of a job, and everybody down, to the door is, as I said before, something that could have been solved, at a much lower level. Now, if you have exhausted every resource up your chain, it is your right to see me, right? So that is what I understand the open door policy to be. That is how I define it. So my door is absolutely open if you have exhausted every option available to you, right? And so understand that's what I mean by that. So the short answer to that is yes. That said, we do have other means. I mentioned the CEO suggestion box earlier. We review that, at least monthly.
Sure.
But certainly on demand. So, between, and there's only 3 people that see, again, full disclosure, it's only 3 people that see those entries, and that's Senior Chief Oyen, XO, and me. And so the 3 of us, and really they're telling me, what the content is. They don't change it. They don't, if somebody complains about the XO, then Senior knows to come to me direct. And like that, that's how we protect, the integrity of the CO suggestion box. So that's one of the most important tools that you have out there. Understand that, again, as I said before, you bring me an issue, I'm going to dive deep into it, right? And so please make it a point to, if you have a suggestion, if you have a comment, if you have a complaint, make sure that it's informed. Try to reduce the emotion away from it, because it's very easy for any of us to get emotional about something that is, very close to us. And so to the best of your abilities, try to be objective and really highlight the issue. Sometimes I get what seem to be essays, and maybe that's the way some of us communicate, right? But a lot of times it's hard to extract from something that is very long, what is the core issue. And by virtue of what I just talked about, that I read each and every one of them, right? And I answer each and every one of them. So help me help you if you need to use the CO suggestion box and Excel.
Sir, if I could just add one thing. If you call the front office 6633 and ask to schedule an appointment with the CO, I will engage and ask that you speak with me first before that person comes and see you. So just as one little asterisk to your open door policy.
Thanks.
Sure.
Were there more? No? Okay, look at that. We're on time. Yeah. All right. Okay, again, once again, less than ideal to be talking to you all virtually, but I'm one person to try to stay always on the positive, right? So one of the most positive things about this virtual all hands is I can reach each and every one of you, right? So if I was to hold a hearing jacks and somebody in Maple wants to know, what the CO say, there's always going to be a filter and another filter and another filter as the word gets passed. So this allows, me to reach out to each and every one of you. And so I know this is going to be available to watch later if you weren't able to participate on the live version. But most importantly, do know I remain the proudest commanding officer in the entire Navy for all the support that you give our warfighters, for everything that you do for them and their families, and for everything that you do for what we do, which is the national defense. So we took the time to recognize some folk. Again, it's not an all-inclusive list. You all do amazing things every day, and for that I will remain eternally grateful. So until the next time, thank you very much, and I hope you have a very, very merry, safe holiday season. Take time to hug a loved one, spend time with friends, family, and return back safely at the end of it all.